away from when a general election is constitutionally due in this country. And I have no doubt, particularly having regard to what I have been observing in recent weeks and months, I have no doubt that there is going to be an increase in the cut and thrust of the body politic. The decibels are going to go up. The heat is going to go up a few notches. And not least, the desperation, in my view, on the part of the parliamentary opposition is going to go up a couple notches as well. I, like my colleagues, however, are equal to the task in terms of the responsible engagement and responsible messaging to the Jamaican people in the lead up to the general elections that are constitutionally due by September of this year. It has become patently clear, listeners, that the PNP, the opposition PNP, does not want to see that which is good happening in Jamaica, particularly on the eve of general elections, and particularly in circumstances where they do not form government. I'm going to repeat that because that observation bears repeating, and that observation I submit this morning puts into proper context what is happening in relation to Enterprise Jamaica and the Jamaican body politic insofar as the engagement and actions of the parliamentary opposition, the PNP, is concerned. The PNP does not want to see good things happening in Jamaica because they do not form government and they are not the ones doing the things that are positive, transformational, impactful, and changing the lives of the Jamaican people. They are shouting the things down, they are decrying them, they are extremely uncomfortable with the good things that are happening in the country. Many observers will say they are anti-development. They don't want to see anything good happening simply because they do not hold the reins of government in the country. That is very unfortunate. That is very low. That is downright despicable. I'm going to start out with a clip from the opposition leader speaking at a PNP divisional conference over there in his embattled General Secretary Dayton Campbell's Westmoreland Eastern. That's the constituency where Dayton Campbell is vying to be elected Member of Parliament. And of course, that seat is held by Mr. Daniel Lawrence of the governing Jamaica Labour Party. Here are the first 10 seconds in a clip that I have here of opposition leader Mark Golding speaking in Darliston, Westmoreland recently.
This is a puppy show government running around, cutting ribbons here, there and everywhere, trying to give the impression that good things are happening, but the people are feeling the pain. And it's going to be a challenging environment for any show government running around, cutting ribbons here, there and everywhere, trying to give the impression that good things are happening, but the people are feeling the pain.
No lesser person than the opposition leader making a mockery of ribbon cutting ceremonies, not just decrying them, but essentially dismissing them as being a charade, when in truth and in fact, we know that the events around which you either have groundbreaking or ribbon cutting, especially in the case of ribbon cutting, are events that represent development. They represent the Jamaican people deriving benefit. They represent transformation of communities. They represent positive impact on people's lives. So Mark Golding, in keeping with the kind of desperation we see being exhibited by the parliamentary opposition, is decrying and shouting down ribbon cutting ceremonies and exercises. As we know, and I said it on the program last week, you cannot have a ribbon cutting for cool breeze and fresh air. Something have to happen for you to have a ribbon cutting. You have to be handing out a house to somebody. You have to be commissioning a new water system. You have to be commissioning a new fleet of police cars or a new school bus. You have to be opening a new stretch of road, whether it's a farm road, a community road, or a new highway. When you cut ribbon, you have to be opening up a new urban center, like that which we saw in Morant Bay last Thursday. When you have a ribbon cutting ceremony, you have to be commissioning or opening a new factory or a new hotel, as we saw some months ago in Hanover with the official opening of the Princess Resorts over there in Hanover. That is what you have when you have ribbon cutting exercises. So the question is, how can someone be impugning and throwing cold water, yes, seeking to diminish and decry ribbon cutting ceremonies? Yesterday in the Parliament, listeners, the former opposition leader, the Member of Parliament for St. Andrew East Central, took to his feet in the sectoral debate and made what many of us will consider as his farewell address, as it were, his last substantial speech in the Parliament, a space he would have been serving over 30 odd years. Dr. Phillips in that speech highlighted the factors that contributed to the success of the IMF program that he would have presided over primarily as finance minister between 2013 and February 2016, when he demitted office as finance minister. There's a particular observation that was made by Dr. Peter Phillips in the speech he gave in the Parliament yesterday that I found very, very instructive. And for that reason, I'm bringing it to your attention. And I'm quoting Dr. Phillips as saying the following: much of the commentary misses the essential element that resulted in the success of that program. What we miss is the significance of the united national effort that was involved. And I'm ending the quote there. I'm going to repeat the quote. Much of the commentary misses the essential element that resulted in the success of that program. What we miss is the significance of the united national effort that was involved. What was Dr. Phillips referring to here? In short, listeners, that IMF program, indeed the efforts aimed at reducing Jamaica's debt stock, and of course continuing with key structural reforms pursuant to an IMF program, was underway when the Simsimila-led PNP administration was in office. And that IMF program, and indeed the work over which Dr. Phillips presided, required a degree of cooperation and unity as a country. And I am submitting this morning, as Dr. Phillips himself would have underscored and highlighted last afternoon in the Parliament, that there was cooperation and unity. There was a national, a collective effort in relation to continuing with the needed structural reforms in the country, pursuant to, of course, that IMF program. The then JLP opposition, led by Andrew Holness, between 2012 January and 2016 February, was the diametric opposite of this despicable and repugnant parliamentary outfit in opposition, the PNP of today. Why do I say this? We, in keeping with the Westminster parliamentary system, we have a democratic system of governance characterized by competitive politicking. There is a contest. There's a contest of ideas, alternatives are advanced, and at any time, a parliamentary opposition is seeking the job that is being performed and held by the party-forming government. So when the PNP is in government, the opposition JLP is essentially seeking to replace them as government. Likewise, when a JLP-led government is in place, the PNP as opposition is seeking to take their job. That's how it goes. However, there's a degree of lowness, barrel scraping, bottom of the barrel, bottom of the pit, as Ryan Simpson in Northeast St. Anne described Dayton Campbell when he thought he was using good descriptors. He described Dayton Campbell as coming from the bottom of the pit, something to that effect. But just to be clear, even if when the politics, as it is competitive, because that's the nature of it, there are some things that are simply below the belt, below the pale, and one should never venture there. The very environment Dr. Phillips described last afternoon, which resulted in large part in the success of the 2013 IMF program, that IMF program inked in 2013, was a success that we in the Jamaica Labour Party, though we were in opposition at the time, we contributed to. Why? Because there was restraint, there was responsible engagement, and I dare say the then JLP opposition supported, as was necessary, the key pieces of legislation that underpinned, yes, that IMF program of May 2013. All of the key IMF program related pieces of legislation received the support of the then Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party government, opposition, which of course is now the Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party government. Those things are important in the building of a nation, because even though we are competitors, the things that are good for the country are not things that we should seek to disrupt. And even though we had divergent views as to tax measures in that period and on such things as the Petrocaribe buyback, yes, although we had divergence of views, there was considerable cooperation. Andrew Holness was a responsible opposition leader, contrary to what we see from Mark Golding at present. So when Dr. Phillips was finance minister and came with the omnibus tax legislation to essentially subject more things to tax measures and iron out some of the distortions in our tax regime as a country, it received the support, the parliamentary support of the then JLP government. When the PNP advanced the fiscal rules, that received the support of the then opposition JLP. It was the political environment at the time that enabled Dr. Phillips and the Simsimila-led administration as a whole to be able to impose the wage freeze it imposed on public sector workers. There was no court action advanced by the JLP. They didn't seek to take the ministers or the then government to court to try and grandstand in the way we see happening now. There were two persons who had adjustments made as it relates to their retirement. DPP Paula Llewellyn and Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis. The PNP didn't take the Pamela Monroe Ellis matter to court. It took the Paula Llewellyn matter to court. Not acting on principle, always acting pursuant to expediency. It's always about the political one-upmanship for the PNP. When they were in government and when Jamaica needed what Dr. Phillips stood in the parliament yesterday and described as a united national effort, because he loves Jamaica and is committed to Jamaica, Andrew Holness, at considerable political cost to him, provided that critical support and cooperation. I know it firsthand. I served as an aide to Andrew Holness. I was in the back office. I helped to prepare the speeches and the responses to many of those pieces of legislation that he would have to rise as opposition leader during that period and make in the parliament. And we know that it came at a considerable political cost, because there were many in the JLP who felt that the opposition, led by Holness, was being a bit too soft. They didn't appreciate, they didn't come to understand that what we were doing was providing critical support as part of a national effort. And as always, Andrew Holness is about brains, not brawn. He's strategic. You step out of the way, allow government to do certain reforms, and then there are other things that are in play politically, and you have the political play around those issues. It's political strategy. It's not the rare politics that Jamaica has typically been characterized by, and the kind of politics that Mark Golding is exhibiting and, of course, resorting to at this time. Just before I run to the break and continue with my commentary on the other side, I want you to play back that 10-second of the opposition leader Mark Golding casting a shadow over the whole business of ribbon cutting in the country. He was speaking, listeners, about 2 Thursdays ago in Darliston, Westmoreland, where Danny Lawrence of the JLP is the Member of Parliament. Listen to the gentleman, Mark Jefferson Golding, the gentleman who hesitated in choosing Jamaica.
This is a puppy show government running around, cutting ribbons here, there, and everywhere, trying to give the impression that good things are happening, but the people are feeling the pain.
There you have it. I'm gonna go to the break and come back with more here on Straight Up. Stay with us. The program is Straight Up. and I'm continuing my extended opening commentary this morning. There's a bag of things to address, a crocus bag of things. The opposition leader has charged that the government is cutting ribbons to give the impression that things are happening. Can a government make up things that are happening? Are we magicians that can pull rabbits out of hats and deal in mirage? You either buy a bus or you don't buy a bus. Same like a lady may either be pregnant or not pregnant. The thing either exists or it don't exist. You either opening a newly refurbished clinic or health center, as we have seen in many instances, pursuant to Operation Refresh by the Health Minister, Dr. Tufton, in communities all over the country. The clinic is either refurbished or it is not refurbished. Yes? The police stations that have been refurbished, they're either refurbished or they're not refurbished. New stations built. A new headquarters over in Westmoreland. Frome Station. These things are either done or they are not done. So a government can't make up the things around which and in respect of which it cuts a ribbon. When the beneficiary of a new social housing program house gets the keys to that house, it is not a bully beef tin key she get or him get. It's the key to a house. The house either exists or it don't exist. And we know that the house exists because the Prime Minister couldn't take up himself to go and give out a key to a bully beef tin. That makes sense? So how can an opposition leader seeking to be taken seriously, yes, how can he be taken seriously by saying government is cutting ribbon here, there and everywhere, giving the impression that when a community has a water system commissioned, the water system is either commissioned or it is not. You can't go turn on water for water where don't exist. So it's very clear, listeners. It's my central thesis this morning, and I'm underscoring it. What we're seeing exhibited by the PNP is a level of desperation, a level of, I don't even know what to say in terms of the adjectives to appropriately describe how low and classless what we're seeing at present is. But I want to come quickly to some of the other observations. I'm enumerating here some of the things the PNP is fighting down. The business of a republic, and I played it on this program some time ago. I'm trying to determine, Madam Producer, if in the archives there you would have that clip with Mark Golding speaking in the Parliament on the issue of the constitutional reform, where he mentioned, listeners, that Jamaica has had, stops and starts vis-a-vis constitutional reform, and he was imploring the government to proceed with those things on which we are agreed. See if I can find that particular clip for me. But in short, the very suggestion made by Mark Golding when he spoke in the budget debate in March of 2022 is the very point he has since come to impugn, because what he's now saying is that we shouldn't have constitutional reform, we shouldn't be getting rid of the king as head of state here in Jamaica without getting rid of the King's Court. But in March 2022, this same desperate Mark Golding made the point that now is the time for Jamaica to proceed with the things on which we are agreed, because he made the point that on the question of Jamaica's final court, yes, Jamaica wasn't there as yet. He's the person who said those things. So the PNP is fighting against the establishment of the Republic of Jamaica, something that is good for Jamaica. Something that is good for Jamaica is essentially being fought against by the PNP. Yes? In more recent times, even the minimum wage is being fought against by the PNP. The government has seen it fit, yes, to increase the minimum wage per 40-hour work week from $15,000 to $16,000. That will come on stream in a week and a half from now. So essentially, on the 1st of June, that minimum wage will come on stream. What we are seeing from the PNP is that instead of focusing on the substance, they are trying to be desperate and trying to highlight form. So the conventional practice has been that, you know, the minimum wage commission or this advisory outfit would usually treat with and consider recommendations as it relates to a minimum wage. My colleague host on this program had Vincent Morrison on some weeks ago. Where he basically made the point that the Prime Minister announced an increase in the minimum wage but didn't consult with the minimum wage advisory body. And Lambert Brown has since tabled some questions surrounding the minimum wage, asking of the minister, the pertinent minister who will be answering those questions, whether there was consultation about the increase in minimum wage by $1,000 by the Prime Minister prior to it being announced. Now, everybody, even the baby were just born at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, can appreciate that a bump up in the minimum wage is something that is particularly timely, needed, and would be appreciated by minimum wage earners at this time. Yes, everybody knows that. And the minimum wage, everybody knows, is also a matter of a delicate balancing act, because what is wage and income for one man is an expense item for another man. And we have to appreciate, as I have pointed out on this program several times over, that there are persons who are civil servants, ordinary workers, ordinary working class people who themselves are employers. So we have to do a delicate balancing act on this question of minimum wage. Because when a classroom teacher who has a baby, a young child, yes, a toddler, an infant, at home and needs the services of a babysitter, that teacher who isn't necessarily making a whole heap of money is an employer and has to contend with the minimum wage. A policeman or a police officer who has to attend to an elderly parent has to hire someone to provide care services to their old age parent or a grandparent, for example. So they are an employer. So employers are not just the William Mahfoods and the Gassana Zans of this world, who many would say, boy, them rich, make them pay it. Ordinary people, mom and pop type operation proprietors are also employers. They also have to pay a wage to the persons in their employ. So it's a delicate balancing act. And the government believes that it has struck that delicate balancing act by bumping up the minimum wage that is to be paid for a 40-hour work week here in Jamaica by $1,000, moving it from $15,000 to $16,000. I wanted to listen to this next clip because it is a clip of Michael Phillips, yes, doing a similar thing to what Mark Golding did, because all of them have on a shirt marked Desperation at the back. Their team is marked and named Desperate Bunch. So when the bossy teams in the UEFA Champions League take to the pitch, you see the match card, you see the lineup, and you see the various players with them name and their number on it. All of the PNP persons have on a bib, a shirt, yes? Their kit has the name and the word desperation at the back of it. And they are the desperation team. Listen to this fellow, Michael Phillips.
Them gone through 4 minister of transport. 4. And all 4 don't even make half. And this last one, Darrell Vaz, before him fix the JUTC, him start talk about school bus system.
So, very important note here, listeners. The JLP, we do not operate in a way where we see things as mutually exclusive. We believe that even while we continue with efforts to improve and advance the services provided by our flagship public transportation system, government supported and sponsored system, the JUTC, even while we continue to improve the services of the JUTC, we can also carve out and make way for services in terms of the rollout of a rural school bus system. So that's the first point. But importantly as well, how do we get to a place where an opposition spokesperson on transport is going to take issue with and criticize and decry a school bus system? This gentleman is a rural MP, albeit his days are numbered. Michael Phillips is the Member of Parliament for Manchester Northwestern. He's a rural MP, and here he is lambasting a rural school bus system, something that the PNP of which he's a part never brought to the fore, never instituted. And his opponents, the Jamaica Labour Party government, is now instituting that. And he's trying to throw cold water on a rural school bus system simply out of a quest to score political points and engage in political one-upmanship on an issue around which there should be no politicking. Those buses will be transporting the children of Jamaica, especially those out in rural Jamaica, irrespective of whether they sympathize with or their parents vote for the Jamaica Labour Party or the despicable PNP of which Michael Phillips is a member. Those students and those school buses have no regard for the politics and should not be politicized in the way Michael Phillips and, according to Darrell Vaz, Colin Campbell, who incidentally was seated in the Parliament yesterday, in the well of the Parliament, when Dr. Phillips made the observations he made about a united national effort. That same Colin Campbell had to be called out by Transport Minister Darrell Vaz in recent weeks because he apparently took to social media to suggest that the school buses that have been brought down. And there's another point of criticism that they have leveled against the school buses. They have referred to them as second-hand. One of their little miscreants on social media, Andre Stevens, one of the thumbnails he used on social media in relation to the rural school bus is that them a pupina. Just think about it carefully. The vast majority of motor vehicle owners and operators in this country, listeners, are owners and operators of used vehicles, or what you called reconditioned vehicles. Yes? The vehicles that are purchased out of Japan, if they're not a new vehicle, i.e. a newly manufactured vehicle, they are reconditioned vehicles. In other words, used vehicles. Are you trying to make a teacher feel small, make a policeman feel small, who put their money together and buy a Toyota Axio, or put their money together as favor, say, and buy a Pro Box? You have tried this the taximen in this country by suggesting that somehow a vehicle that was previously owned or a vehicle that has miles on it is unworthy. You guys have lost it in the PNP to the point where you don't even have nothing else to lose. Totally lost it. Simply because of political expediency rather than principle. You want to see Colin Campbell of CCOC. Colin Campbell, our candidate of Trafigura fame, in the parliament yesterday, apparently to support Dr. Peter Phillips in his contribution to the sectoral debate. But he's on social media as Brushy Two-String or whatever else he is, making claims about the rural school buses when I go so, about bus brought down. So if a bus even did brought down, that was something to celebrate? That is something to celebrate? Low and classless. Crime is also beating the opposition PNP bad. The government's crime management are beat them bad. 42% reduction in murders year to date. On Monday of this week, my colleague host of this program had Wilfred Rattigan on the station. That same Wilfred Rattigan who aspired to serve this country as police commissioner. I don't know if he's reeling, as it were, from not having been successful in his bid to be considered for and be tapped to serve as police commissioner. He may well be reeling from that. So him carrying belly. He may well be carrying belly for the government in that regard. But Wilfred Rattigan, on public radio, as he underscored on YouTube, a program dubbed Make We Talk, Monday evening of this week, made the point, yes, that murders are not going down. Charging essentially that the government is fabricating it, because what he's saying is that there are some categories that the government, the police, is now using to mask murders. For example, skeletal remains found. If skeletal remains are found, sir, and whatever categorization the police force uses, first of all, it is not the creation of the Andrew Holness-led government. It is something that the law enforcement around the world use. Suicide, death by misadventure, investigation ongoing, skeletal remains found, all kinds of things. These categorizations simply mean that investigations are ongoing so that they can clear up the matter and attribute it where it is to be attributed properly, if they can attribute any at all. So the key point, sir, Wilfred Rattigan, is that you can begrudge the police if that is in fact what you're doing. You can do that all you want. We have an effective and hard-working police commissioner in place at present. And although you may begrudge the hold of that office, that will not stop Dr. Kevin Blake from executing the job he has been doing and executing so competently, professionally, and effectively. And as I have said when I called into the program on Monday, whatever you may have been promised by the PNP or whomever else, whether it is to be ambassador to Washington, consul general, or police commissioner, you can forget it. That now go happen, that now go keep. So you can go and persist in a delusion of grandeur. What you must do is call into this program. Call into this program. For your benefit, Mr. Wilfred Rattigan, let me repeat the numbers. 212-9824. Of course, you know if you put the 876 before that. And there's also 462-0919. Call into the program and let us discuss these categories that you're talking about. You are someone who ostensibly served in the FBI, so you would know about ongoing investigations. If the police come upon a skeletal remain, it would take investigation to be able to establish whether this was in fact a victim of murder or death by some other means. Yes? I'm giving another couple of examples of things that the PNP is berating and criticizing. A park, a new park for Mandeville. The public has heard Mayor of Mandeville, the first citizen as it were of the parish of Manchester, Donovan Mitchell, who is vying to be the MP in Manchester Central, saying that they don't want a park. So because a new park is being proposed by Andrew Holness and the JLP government that he leads, Mayor Donovan Mitchell no want a park. If Mark Golding were Prime Minister, God forbid, and were promising a park or undertaking to build a park, he would have want a park. But because it's Andrew Holness undertaking to do a park in Manchester, in Mandeville, Donovan Mitchell don't want a park. So the things that are good for the people of Jamaica, the things that are good, listeners, for the people who they themselves serve, the PNP don't want it for the people. They do not want the development for the people. They envy the people and the development coming the people's way, simply because it is not the God-forsaken PNP that is doing the development. Those people at 89 Old Hopeless Road are a unique set, a despicable set. You cannot get any lower than them. A park that will enhance social life and family life for constituents and citizens. People can go there because as it is right now, it is my information that the park that is in Mandeville is closed more than it is open. It's only when they have special events, civic ceremony and so on that the park open and gather. Why shouldn't the park be operating in the way the Emancipation Park here in Kingston operates? That's the undertaking of this Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party government. We want a park for the good people of that side of the country, Mandeville and its environs, to be able to go to a park, do physical activity, them jogging trail and walking trail, interact, have a picnic, sprawl off on the lawn, buy ice cream, take photographs, all the things that happen at Emancipation Park. With the exception, of course, of transmission sitting down in one another's laps. Yes? But I move away from the park now to the new social housing program, because my colleague host on this program as well had Natalie Nita Garvey on the program a few months ago, decrying the government issuing the new social houses with ribbon cutting ceremony and so on. Instead of being happy for the beneficiaries, Natalie Nita Garvey, as does my colleague host of this program, in perfect despicable fashion and desperate fashion, is taking issue with the handing over ceremonies that the Prime Minister presides over. But understand this, folks. The things that you guys decry and criticize, they will be happening. They will be happening whether you like it or not. So there will be more beneficiaries under the new social housing program, as there was last Thursday, where the Honourable Prime Minister, the most Honourable Prime Minister, handed out no fewer than, I gather, 6 houses between East St. Thomas and West St. Thomas. Yes? And we want to urge those members of Parliament, Michelle Charles in the East, James Roberts in the West, there in St. Thomas, to continue to serve their constituents and serve them admirably, in as much as I encourage the Prime Minister to continue, scale up even. And I have every confidence, sir, that you'll be scaling up the new social housing program in the 3rd term of your administration. It is only for the Jamaican people to interrogate the things that are happening around us and make the appropriate and fitting decision to return your government, sir, for a 3rd successive term of office. How can you be taking issue with houses being handed over to people and a ceremony or an event being staged so to do? We live in a country where the prevailing narrative has always been, nothing now go on, government now do nothing, government now do nothing for poor people. When government do something for poor people, it have to be publicized. OFTO, in inverted commas, have to, whether you in the PNP like it or not. And the more Uno don't want to see the Prime Minister handing out social houses. Is the more him going to hand out social houses. Understand that. There's also the establishment of Portmore as a parish. It has always been the aspiration of the citizens and a number of thought leaders and influencers in Portmore, not least the late George Lee, former mayor of Portmore, no longer with us, but George Lee of blessed memory, yes, is among the thought leaders and stakeholders in Jamaica who wanted Portmore to ultimately emerge as Jamaica's 15th parish. But for the PNP, because I know them do it, they don't want it to happen. So they don't want the development and all that is to come from Portmore becoming Jamaica's 15th parish. And I asked them the question when I made my contribution in the Senate to the debate on the Portmore parish bill. What will the people of Portmore stand to lose from Portmore becoming a parish? What will they stand to lose? PNP has not been able to answer that all now. But all they can do is go around and criticize the government for what it is doing and the impact it is having on the lives of the Jamaican people. Before we run to the break, that 17-second clip with Peter Murcott Bunting, I wanted to just give our listeners that 17-second clip. A gentleman who couldn't address crime when he was there is professing to be a prophet. Anyway, we'll try and get that during the course of the program, but there's a 17-second clip with Peter Bunting almost being moved to tears in 2013 when he was National Security Minister, effectively abdicating, throwing in the towel and telegraphing to criminals that he's a soft soap. As I have said in the Senate, he's number 15 in Cashpot. Go and look up what number 15 is. He's as weak as number 15 in Cashpot. We go to the break and take the NPR news at the top of the hour. Appreciate where we're coming from in terms of where the person who speaks on national security for the parliamentary opposition, when he served just recently as National Security Minister, these were among the low points for him.
The ministry and so much. We're trying very hard at the ministry and so much effort is being made and yet so little headway, such slow headway is coming out in the statistics.
He says so much effort, listeners, so little headway coming out in the statistics. But we're seeing some headway in the statistics now. Good morning and welcome to the program, Kevin O'Brien Chang.
Can you hear that clearly at all, for some reason?
Yeah, good morning. You hear me better now, Kevin?
Yeah, a little better, yeah.
Very well.
First to clarify, I'm Mr. Chang, Dr. Chang is the security minister.
I corrected myself.
And to clarify, we're not related. People doesn't tell me that.
Yes.
That's to clarify.
At least no known relations, yes.
No known relations. Maybe way back in the, third, fourth, fifth, you never know.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a simple thing that is being proposed. Mother's Day, the Wednesday before Mother's Day is Teacher's Day, right? And most teachers, there are some men, but the majority are women. And I get it as a way to, show respect to the teachers and all that. And it's a great idea. Nothing at all wrong with that. I mean, it's a great idea. It's a good thing. So Father's Day now. The proposal is to make the Wednesday before Father's Day Security Forces Day to honor the soldiers and police. And again, there are female police and soldiers, but the vast majority are men, So I think it's just a natural thing to do because you honor the teachers who they're the future of the country, but why not honor the police and soldiers who keep us safe?
Because just to be clear, Kevin, Jamaica has National Heroes Day, and appropriately, in addition to the persons being awarded, there is recognition for meritorious service that is provided to the men and women of the uniformed groups, warders, firefighters, soldiers, and policemen. But this is typically for persons who have service upwards of 30 years and 25 years and so on. Now, for the security forces in general, Heroes Day doesn't necessarily impact them, because not only are they not recognized, really, they are not, there's no period to pause and specifically honor and salute them. And herein lies the prospect of what you're suggesting, which is a discrete occasion, a discrete day to observe and celebrate and affirm our hardworking men and women of the security forces, be they soldiers or police personnel.
Yeah, and I mean, now, don't disrespect the firemen, I mean, they're also brave, but it's all the soldiers and police, they put their lives on the line. And there's a famous quote from Winston Churchill: courage is the virtue upon which all others climb. Right? And people can say what they want about the police, say what they want about the soldiers. Nobody cannot say that they're not brave. To go and put your life, people firing back at you trying to kill you, to keep the country safe. That is courage, and it's a thing that should also be respected. But from a historical perspective, the Jamaica Constabulary Force was formed in 1867, 2 years after the Morant-Bay Rebellion, patterned after the Royal Irish Constabulary. And the goal was not to keep the masses safe from crime and all that, but to keep them under the feet of the colonials. Irish is a British colony, Ireland is a British colony too. Now, we're not condemning Britain as the worst colonialist ever. That's far from it. They may have been the best, but they committed sins.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And it was that thing of oppression. And so for ever since 1867 up to well into the 2000s, police in Jamaica were seen as oppressors. We know the famous beastman Babylon. Out of a historical perspective, between the Morant-Bay Rebellion in 1865 and the 1938 Labour Rebellion, the biggest upheaval Jamaica had was 1902, the Montego Bay riots, which were sparked by police brutality. So it's a historical perspective. So historically, Jamaica saw the police not as partners protecting us, but as oppressors keeping us down. That last 10 years or so, that has changed dramatically. In one of the greatest cultural changes in Jamaican history, gradually, and all the police commissioners no doubt had a role, all governments had a role, but right now, I think it is quite obvious to everybody in Jamaica that the attitude of Jamaicans towards the police has changed. They are now seen as partners in crime, and one of the reasons crime is plummeting is because the average citizen now has more confidence in the police to go tell them stuff that's happening. In the past, the feeling when you tell police stuff, then they tell the criminal and they'll come kill you. Those days are gone. We want them to go forever. We don't want to go back at all. And putting a thing like National Security Forces Day or Security Forces Day would kind of cement that kind of thing. Fontana, we're doing our little part. We are going to give 20%. We give 20% to the teachers on Teachers Day, and we're going to give 20% off to the police and soldiers on Security Forces Day. Maybe not official yet, but we are honoring it.
Yeah,
always given
in the day, yeah.
We're always giving them 10% too. But I think, and I would like to see other businesses do this. Salute their courage. That they're keeping us safe. And as I said, with murders down 42%, if you extrapolate the current murder rate to, I think, 257 murders up to May the 17th, extrapolate that 137 days, extrapolate that over 365 days, we're looking at 685 murders. Now, can you imagine that? Yeah. Under 700 for the first time in 30 years since 1994.
In other words, if you were telling me this a year ago or even 2-3 years ago, Kevin, I would have told you that, well...
Fantasy land.
That's
much drunk or high. And I'm a rum around the ganja. Yes, it's a madness. But we're seeing a transformation. Never have Jamaicans felt so safe for the last 30 years. Run the streets and talk to anybody. I talk to people all the time. People have never felt so safe, and they're rejoicing in it, the sense of freedom to walk around. I mean, not saying bad things aren't happening, not like we're perfect, not like we want to be. And we saw the tragedy of the little girl the other day, the tragedy of this lady who disappeared.
And it's Dilworth from UTEC.
Yeah, man. Yeah, things still happening, and condolences to all the families, but certainly things are better than what they were. The current murder rate, if you extrapolate it, is 24 per 100,000. We're coming from 60-something. The record was 2005, 63.
When we became the murder capital of the world.
Yeah, we're at 24 now. We need to go down. The world average is 6.5, about 7. The Latin American average, which probably is more realistic for Jamaica, being Latin America is the most violent region in the world, is about 16. So we still have a ways to go. But certainly, we have made fantastic progress. And when you make progress, the main thing is you don't want to go back. You want to entrench the gains. And this is one of the ways I believe. I have visions of not just of security forces. They have ladies going around and giving roses to policemen. My favorite policeman who helped me out and all that.
And all of us, we live in communities or in proximity to where there's at least one police station, so it would be good for us to have some kind of gesture of affirmation. Some people, it may be a cake, as we see some members of parliament doing, and for us, it may be some token of some kind that we bring to the police station and gift.
That's the one. Encouragement to labor, Yeah. Encouragement to labor. Police said, thanks for being so nice, and Mr. Officer, so brave, and do it. It will encourage them to keep doing that way. It will encourage them to say, it's nice to be liked, right? So you continue it. You want to entrench and these gains and go forward. We don't want to go back to the bad old days. And I think the government I'm calling, you're a senator, sir. Why don't you raise it in the Senate? Why don't you raise that motion in the Senate, say we want to make the Wednesday before Father's Day, Security Forces Day, that's our Teachers Day.
I will move that motion next Friday, Kevin.
Yeah, power. Raise it, and I can't see how anybody...
I had conceived of moving the motion for the sex offenders register as well, but I'm satisfied based on some of the latest things I've heard that the government is already treating with that
the
issue.
Sex offenders, we know there is the controversy that if you will put the list out, then people will kill them. I leave that to it's a national debate. We're a democracy, we have a national debate. The politicians can raise it and see how the members feel, and all that. That's controversial.
This one is
I can't see the negatives. I can't see any negative security forces there. This is what would be controversial about it. You can't
because think about it, and I give the listeners an example, Kevin. When a construction project is going on and an error is made, the contractor or the engineer on the project can effect remedial action. When a administrative staffer at an office makes a mistake, they can go on the computer and press the back button or delete, as the case may be. For the policemen and women, their job often involves zero margin of error, because if a mistake is made by them in the line of duty, particularly in the very tough and trying circumstances under which they operate, they may well be cut down and taken out, as we have seen in the past.
Happens a lot of the time. Give me 12, I think the average rate is about 1 a month, I believe.
So the courage of these men and women really not to be overlooked, as you're highlighting.
As I said, the ultimate price a lot of them pay. They are, let's put it this way, they are the bravest men and women in the country. And I was, proving it every day, putting it on the line every day. Nobody else in the country does that. Yes, once in a while people have to do things that they are brave and all that, but these guys these men and ladies have to do it every time they are on operation or anything. And as I said, they are the bravest set of persons in Jamaica. That is unquestionable. Let us salute that courage. Yeah. So, and as I say, I come back to the historical, as I said, it's one of the great historical transformations in the history of the country. I don't think we talk about it enough. The massive change of the police becoming partners with the public. And as I said, a lot of the people, when you talk to them, it's true, but think about it, Even the police themselves may not be aware of it, the youngsters, But if the government sees it as the people in charge, who the people that run the country, connecting that to everybody. We have seen this change. We want it to continue. We want this partnership to grow and flourish.
I want to put a scenario to you, Kevin. There's a particular story and feature on the front page of the Gleaner this morning, because last week, myself and a team from Team JLP attended upon the Gleaner for a Gleaner Editors Forum. Subsequent to that, the PNP had a forum with the editors of the Gleaner as well. There's a story on the front page of the Gleaner this morning that says PNP rejects JLP's crime victory lap. And essentially, one of the paragraphs here says, the JLP's celebration of falling crime rates has not gone unchallenged. Just days after Chang's remarks, Bunting dismissed the government's narrative as both misleading and disrespectful to the Jamaican people. He is essentially charging that for a considerable period of time in the life of this administration, murders were high. So he's essentially dismissing what is happening now to being misleading and disrespectful. Your assessment of those observations, I don't know if you have had a chance to look at the Gleaners yet this morning.
I would only say this. There seem to be some people who are totally out of touch with the common people. And it's one of the things I notice in Jamaica. When you talk to people, regular people on the ground, as I do all the time, because I like to feel the pulse of what's going on. And you talk, they hear the people at the top, the politicians, a lot of them, the human rights groups, they're totally out of touch. You talk to anybody on the streets right now, they are jubilant at how much safer they are feeling. People, it's like a sense, like a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, man, like a sigh.
The people are exhaling. Now, the victory lap, I agree, isn't too early for a victory lap, because hey, it's only 137 days after the 365.
Yeah, so it's like words, by the way. Yeah, because we're not doing any victory lap. We are focused.
But focused on the reality
not stopping at
of the reality. And anybody who thinks Jamaicans are not feeling the fact that the murders are down and feeling that they're happier, they're totally out of touch with the people. And as I said, when people make statements totally out of sync with what the populace are thinking and feeling, it will only make them look, so this man not don't talk to people. And it's a very strange headline indeed.
Yeah.
Where the government of the day, the opposition, gets precedence over the government. A very strange headline. And you don't often see that anywhere. Where the pushback is given more publicity than the actual announcement.
Yeah.
And listen, numbers do not lie. From 2015 to 2025, murders are down the current rate 43%, over something over 40%. It was, in fact, probably about 48%. In 2015, 1,208 murders. We're looking at this rate at 685. Right? In fact, that is not the reality of what we're looking at. From 1,208 murders in 2015, when the JLP took power early February 2016, and it's a current rate of 685, 45% roughly. No, numbers don't lie. And Horace Chang, his record as security minister is the best in the history of the country. When he took over, 2017, there were 1,647 murders. He took over in 2018, right? It's now 685. That's over a 50% decrease. Something like 60%, almost 60% down. Now, numbers don't lie. People can talk all they want. But the numbers are the numbers. Murders have plummeted. And Horace Chan, when they call him sleepy, he must sleep on this and that. When the murders are cussing him, you've got to give him his props now. All the people call him sleepy. Where are they now? And of course, above all, we salute the police. They are the ones carrying it. The politicians can talk the talk as a this and that. They walk the walk. And Dr. Kevin Blake and his brave men, they must get the bulk of the praise. of course, you can't deny the people who give them the resources and put the SOEs in place.
And the legislative tools.
And the legislative tools.
So,
but you said, Dr. Kevin Blake and his brave men, keep it up, gentlemen and ladies. And that's why I would like a national, salute them officially.
Yeah.
And thanks, we should, if this happens, Jamaican Justice should give thanks. They are the ones who made the people push back and say, no, we are with the police, we are with the men in blue. And if we have the security forces there, everybody should wear blue. This can be an official thing from the government.
That's
We
right.
should all wear blue to show that we are 100% behind the men and ladies who are keeping the country safe.
Indeed. All right, have to leave it there this morning, Kevin, just to point out to persons that your outfit, Fontana, will be offering 20% discount essentially to...
And I believe the government doesn't go through.
Yeah,
Not
you
stopping
still do.
private enterprise people do from doing the same
doing-
thing. So
from
we
recognizing.
do have to wait upon the government.
Yeah.
All right? Anyway, sir, I look forward to your part.
Yeah, man, I will
putting
move
that
that
motion
motion,
up.
Kevin,
And anybody that
and
passes
join
it
the call.
is a traitor to the country. I'll say it from now. Anybody that don't support the security forces is a traitor to the country that don't want Jamaicans feel safe. They don't value innocent lives.
Indeed.
Straight up, I'm saying it.
All right, very well. Thank you so much, Kevin.
All right. Thank you, sir. Keep
All the best, my
take
brother.
care.
That
All right.
was, of course, listeners, Kevin O'Brien Chang. He is a public affairs commentator and the proprietor of Fontana Pharmacy. Fontana, I gather, provide a 10% discount to members of the security forces generally. And for this particular day, the Wednesday before Father's Day, Fontana is undertaking, listeners, Fontana Pharmacy that is, to provide a 20% discount to policemen and women who shop on Security Forces Day. So we encourage them as corporate citizens for so doing, and I must tip my hat to Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang in this regard. We're going to go to the break and come back with your calls, so do feel free to call in and let us engage on the issues. 212-9824 or 462-0919. Stay with us. 212-9824 or 462-0919. We start with our first caller. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello, morning.
Hello, morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Hello, morning. Morning to you and the listeners, Marlon.
Yes, sir, morning.
Name is David,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to bring to your attention, I heard this morning you were discussing issues that the PNP have taken umbrage with and have sought to deny the Jamaican people the benefits of. And I just wanted to re-raise the constitutional matter. More specific, the Jamaica becoming a republic issue and the stance that Golding has taken on it. Now, you played the clip earlier, and the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs would have played the clip in Parliament as well, showing the duplicity of Mr. Golding.
Mm-hmm.
But something that has escaped the discussion is an editorial that was written by Mr. Garnet Roper, stating that Golding's masterful strokes in the budget debate should not be ignored.
And this was speaking.
And
This was an editorial back in 2022.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was 2021 actually. It's 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And when Mrs. Malahoufort would have raised the matter showing the hypocrisy of Mark Golding, he responded in a Gleaner story saying that he was misunderstood and that he could not anticipate that the government would be trying to move forward with 1 foot in, 1 foot out, to paraphrase. But Mr. Roper, for all those who don't know, is well connected to the People's National Party, specifically to Bunting and Golding. And I just want to read an excerpt from his editorial for you and your listeners, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. This is who? Garnet Roper speaking?
Garnet Roper.
Very well. Go ahead.
He says, the public can quibble about what was the high water mark of Golding's presentation, But for my part, it was his imagination about constitutional matters. He expressed the view that the time had come for Jamaica to become a constitutional republic and replace the monarchy with a Jamaican head of state. He also said that the time had come for the Caribbean Court of Justice to become Jamaica's final appellate court. He admitted that the JLP had not yet come to that view, but that we should go ahead with what is already agreed. This editorial was shared by Mark Golding himself and several persons in the PNP, almost lauding him for saying, okay, this is how we should move forward with becoming a republic. But 3 and 4 and 5 years later, no, the argument has changed because it doesn't suit his narrative, because it's an election year, and because the PNP wants it to be said that, you know, they are the ones who did it.
Yep. That's a part of what is at stake here. The PNP
There's
cannot bear
for
the records to show that it was the JLP that took Jamaica to republic.
Exactly. There's a song by Ding Dong Marlon that says, you know, the good things then. And every time the government tries to put forward the good things then for the people of Jamaica to benefit, the PNP steps forward to say, them not deserve that. Don't give that to them.
And make no mistake, caller. I have already detected them angling to tear down and chastise the Solidarity Initiative. So just to be clear, the Solidarity Initiative listeners will see 50,000 Jamaicans benefiting from a cash grant of 20,000 Jamaican dollars. These are persons who are essentially needy and are not benefiting from relief by any official program or initiative of government. They are not on PATH, they are not on NIS, they are not NIS beneficiaries, yes, and they certainly were not among the 300,000+ beneficiaries of the government's reverse income tax credit last year. Yes, that $20,000 reverse income tax credit. So I have already detected that they're going to come and try and decry the $20,000. But what I'm pointing out to listeners this morning is that, listen, the persons who will be benefiting from the government's Solidarity Initiative, the Solidarity Program, are persons who played a hand in the sacrifice, the collective sacrifice Jamaica had to make when we were called upon to pay $60 billion in new taxes under the PNP administration of 2012 to February 2016. And so, whereas the country is in a position that it can do something for them who have not benefited really prior to, in terms of a discrete cash grant outside of COVID relief and so on, for example, the dividends that government is able to afford them should be afforded them.
And it would be hypocritical, Marlon, of the PNP to be encouraging, whether it's their supporters or the Jamaican people, to not accept or not apply if they, if they qualify. You see how they try to tear down the return income tax credit.
Yeah, the reverse.
And it's hypocritical because Mark Golding took his salary increase. Dayton Campbell took his salary increase. They all stood and took their salary increase, despite the pomp and pageantry that they carried on within that press conference where they were saying, roll it back, roll it back, roll it back.
This is the same salary increase in respect of which Julian Robinson got up in the House and indicated no objection. In fact, he welcomed it because they knew and they recognized that this was something that was long outstanding in terms of the treatment of the political electorate.
I don't think Julian Robinson is brazen enough to attempt to speak on behalf of the entire PNP without first caucusing or having discussions with at least the leadership. And when he stood and spoke, he didn't say, I have no objections. He said, we on this side have no issue with it. Those were his exact words.
Yeah.
So, it's hypocritical for them to be telling people that these grants being offered by the government should not be taken or, are an election ploy. But they have taken their massive salary increases. Some who have promised to donate to charity have not done so, but rather have been putting them in their own and in PMP's own little, funds that they manage and administer, right? So, I mean, it's just the duplicity of the leader of the opposition on so many issues, especially issues that goes to benefit the wider Jamaican public. Is just becoming worse and worse, and it's no wonder his polling has taken a hit. I mean, they've opted. I've heard from good sources that they will now be sharing their poll results only internally. But there may be other reasons for that as well. But if you continue to put a front up for the Jamaican people, one that cannot be trusted, one that flip-flops, then, we're not idiots.
People are going to, grade you and assess you on the basis of what you have been, exhibiting and portraying.
Precisely. So the urban center, the rural school bus, all these issues that the PNP keeps knocking on, things that benefit the people of Jamaica, the good things then. There are so many issues, and if all you can do in opposition is attack the good things, you're attacking a 42% reduction in crime, and you're scrambling to find a way to move the attention away from the excellent work that Dr. Herstrang and his team are doing. You appoint a retired policeman as a deputy spokesperson on crime.
On national security,
you have Bunting saying that when he plans, what his plans, if he
is returned as national security minister,
he's going to be working. He's going to be taking over the role of the Integrity Commission, essentially. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, man, that's very inappropriate. In fact, I had queued up the tape here. I'm going to play it for the benefit of the listeners.
Statement, Marlon, and I hope you raise it in Parliament. That for him to be saying that should he be given the role of being at the helm of national security, he would use the information, he would use access to that information, he would use his position to politically target his opponent. That's essentially what he said,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very undemocratic. But, that's just my interpretation of what he has said.
All right. I have to leave it there this morning, David. Thank you for your intervention, my brother.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Good. All right. So, very important observation there, because Bunting was speaking recently at a PNP divisional conference where he made those very unfortunate and disturbing remarks, and I am yet to hear JFJ speaking on that issue. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Senator. How are you?
Yeah, morning. I'm good.
Right. No, there are few questions I have and observations in regards to what is happening to the ordinary Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it is your opinion that Jamaica is going well.
You sound a bit low.
But can you hear me much better?
Yeah,
now?
man. You said I'm of the opinion that Jamaica is going well. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to tell you that there are some of us who don't live in that parallel universe. Right?
I see.
That our realities are different, and the people's reality are much different from what the government.
All right, let me ask you one question, caller. Is there anything that I have enumerated in relation to Jamaica going well that is not undergirded by or supported by empirical and demonstrable and compelling evidence? You want me to repeat the question? Do you want me to repeat the question, sir?
I totally understand the question, Marlon. I totally understand the question.
Well.
But
So
I'm
respond.
saying to you, the realities, even though you are stating statistics, yes, the realities don't match your statistics.
Give me an example of the realities to which you refer.
I'll tell you one of those. For example, you talk about in housing. The JLP made a promise that they would construct 70,000 houses, yes, using the vehicle of the NHT or the HAJ. To date, except for the continuous indigent housing, which was always there because that was a part of the
concrete houses for the indigent was always there, or was it board houses, the food for the poor board houses?
We are referring
Don't
to
make up your own information, sir. You're entitled to your own opinion, but not to your own facts. And I'm so happy you've called in. I'm so happy you've called in. And I will encourage you to continue to call in.
I also want to raise another question with you as I go, because I know there are other...
No, man, I have no more callers. You have up until 11 o'clock.
Okay, in relation to the Ministry of Education, right? What was your role at the Ministry of Education?
My brother,
when you preside, when you
my role was is a matter of public information. So just to be clear, I served at the Ministry of Education as Senior Technical Coordinator, and at a subsequent point, I was asked to act as what is called Executive Director in the Executive Services Unit. So just to be clear, my brother, I did research and wrote cabinet submissions at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information at the time. It is now the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information.
Absolutely. In any of those roles, were you required to provide any services which required project management?
Not discreetly, no.
Not discreetly. Okay, so therefore you are not in charge of projects, particularly which included the tertiary education transformation. Well, the tertiary transformation.
That's what I said, not discreetly, sir. Listen to what I'm saying, as opposed to your talking points or figments of your imagination.
No, not my talking point.
My brother, my brother.
I know you know. This is not my talking point.
My brother.
Raising a question because a ministry that you presided over, Senator.
I didn't. First of all, sir, I presided over no ministry, and I understand the desperation. Mr. Sir.
No, that you resided at.
You are the person. Remind me of your name again. You are who? You are head boy or what is your name?
Well, I am the same head boy that was on the program with you on Portland.
All right, very well. All right, so pause a moment. So first things first, my good sir. First things first, my brother. Zin, I wish for us to speak alternately. Zin? So you will say your bit and me say my bit. So now, I'm going on to make the point that I have long observed a degree of desperation in keeping with my opening comments this morning on the part of the PNP regarding me at Ministry of Education. And I have never held a job, sir, that involved the handling of money or payment of money to persons or anything like that. And I've seen that kind of gibberish on social media on the part of people who are desperate.
And I want to thank you for the clarification. I want to thank you.
So when I see certain things, I find it laughable.
When you ask questions, but
go ahead, sir.
Only clarification when you ask questions. And you have clarified that you did not handle any funds at the Ministry of Education.
I hear people saying all kind of things about money and Grace McLean and a whole heap of nonsense. But anyway, let us come to some substantive issues here, sir.
No,
in the budget debate, hold on, Edward. We're walking and talking. That's what. Watch me now. In the budget debate, sir, one of the points Mark Golding made is not dissimilar to a point you're making now, where he's saying, never mind the statistics. People are feeling a particular way. Now, essentially, Mark Golding sought to jettison and downplay the importance of statistics. The question is, the statistics behind which and on which this government stands, isn't it the same statistics on which the PNP stands? So for example, when I hear Wilfred Rattigan come on this very platform on Monday, as he did on Make We Talk YouTube platform Monday evening, yes, having said his rubbish on Monday morning with my colleague host on this program, he sought to make the point that murders are not going down. He also asserted, my good friend, that what the government is doing, essentially what the police is doing, is hiding the true murder figures. That makes sense to you?
No, 1 second. I am not in the position, nor you in the position, to compare the experience of a one Wilfred Rattigan. No, hold on. You are of the view that the views exposed by Wilfred Rattigan is inaccurate. I am not of this.
No, but which
he has had experience in that era. He has had experience in that era. And one thing with me, I stick to what I know.
True.
And I'm not going
so watch me now.
1 second, Senator, because
sure, I'm holding. Go ahead.
In reference to the national issues.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, the JLP has been advancing an argument that it deserves a third term. And you ask yourself, with all the statistics that you have quoted, and like Portia Simpson Miller would say all the time, you must balance the book while balancing people's lives.
You mean like 60 billion in new taxes with no balancing of people's life? How did that balance life when you wanted to go into an ATM machine with poor, ordinary Jamaicans, including pensioners, who are going to draw them little $5,000? Dr. Phillips was proposing to go into the ATM with them, Mr. Headboy. You recall?
No, Senator, let us set it in.
You could have said Senator 10 times it don't change what I said a while ago, you know.
No, the economy that the JLP now brags and boasts about was that because of the hard political capital that was expended by Portia Simpson Miller. When in 2010, 11, when the JLP went to the IMF, designed their own program, but couldn't pass the test. And it made the relationship.
You remember in the lead up to the February. You remember the lead up to the February 2011 election? What was the JLP's flagship undertaking in the lead up to the February 25, 2016 general election? 1.5, right?
What, the 1.5?
1.5 was its flagship undertaking, right? Watch me now.
Which cost us how much money?
Watch me now, head boy. You see that flagship undertaking, the PNP, persons like Ralston Hyman, the then Finance Minister, Dr. Phillips, they took issue with it and took a swipe. You know what they said? The JLP's 1.5 would mash up the country. Now the JLP delivered on 1.5, and in circumstances where the country not mash up, in fact, the opposite of mashing up the country has happened. You are going to say that the JLP is boasting about economic management, that essentially is the PNP did it?
So you are not allowed the right to your own alternative facts. There were taxes were.
I didn't mention that. I didn't say there were no taxes a while ago. You heard me say that?
18. No, I'm no. But Marlon, if you are going to say that when the PNP was saying that program would in fact affect it,
head boy, you know the German point I made. The German point I made, my friend, is that the PNP did say, if we not do this, we're not gonna mash up a place. The folks did the same thing that they said would mash up the place, and the place never mash up. You understand that fundamental point?
No, well, I mean.
Well.
Let's concede that.
You're done well now.
No, I want you to know, Marlon. Let's concede that point. If you want to take that point, that's.
But I want to take up on an aspect of that, head boy.
What I want
because
to ask,
you're correct in that. Hold on. But before we pivot from that, I just want to clarify this point. It is correct that the undertaking the JLP gave is not what it delivered on in government. So just to be clear, the JLP said we would relieve persons earning $1.5 million per annum or less of income tax. So in other words, persons who were above the threshold would continue to pay that threshold. So it was a select group of persons who the undertaking applied to. When the party formed government, however, and based on dialogue and interactions with the IMF didn't want for an untidy state of payroll affairs. They wanted one standard regime across the board. So the 1.5 undertaking had to apply, head boy, not to some people, but to everybody. You understand that?
Marlon, that 1.5.
Head boy, you have no idea how I'm happy you called into the program.
No,
you have no idea. I would sponsor you calling into the program. I will pay your phone bill to call into the program. I will provide credit to you to call into the program.
I don't need your credit, my friend. I know as an old cricketer from Maxfield Park. You can Google that one, yeah. You can spin that one, yeah. You can twist this one. But the reality I want to ask, do you think any well-thinking Jamaican now having looked at the performer, not just the performer, but look at the uncertified prime minister who's seeking a re-election.
So you have an unverified. So we have an uncertified prime minister, head boy, and we have an unverified opposition leader. Now the prime minister is certified in. Hold on, head boy. Watch me now.
You have to take.
Alright, I'm going to allow you to speak and then I speak. I don't want us to speak at the same time. Go ahead.
No, you have said that the opposition leader is unverified.
Yeah. They didn't ask what I mean by that.
What?
I want the platform to speak to that.
What are you referring to?
So Andrew Holness is a born Jamaican as evidenced by his birth certificate and everybody who know him. Mark Golding, head boy, asserts to have been born in Jamaica but is yet to verify and demonstrate to us that that is in fact the case. We have no birth certificate for Mark Golding. He just makes assertions. Yes? Unverified claims.
Marlon, come on.
Yes, sir.
Come on, man. What a desperate and low.
But I was going on to say, head boy, I was going on to make a point about the things that the Prime Minister is certified in, because the Prime Minister is not certified based on Kevin Stevens's. Hold on now, head boy. I don't want us to talk at the same time, G. So I'm going to yield again and allow you, and then I complete the thought I'm making.
No, and I'm referring to this situation because I think the JLP, and I am not afraid to say who I support. I support the People's National Party.
That goes without saying,
but
man. That is of no moment.
No.
We know that already.
But this attempt by people in the JLP of using Mr. Gordon's skin color.
I didn't say anything about skin color a while ago, my friend. My brother, you hear what I talk about a while ago? Me talk about wet party gentleman born. Okay. That's what I spoke to my brother.
Was not born in Jamaica. Matthew Samuda was not born in Jamaica.
Me no response to Matthew Samuda. Matthew Samuda is not vying to be Prime Minister of Jamaica. Mark Golding is vying to be Prime Minister of Jamaica.
But Mark Golding does not. He was born in Jamaica. And
yes, so verify that with the tangible information. So remember now, head boy, just pause a minute, my brother. Pause a minute. You see, some months ago, the point Jeanette Calder made is a point that was misunderstood by many. Jeanette Calder didn't say that money was missing, or unaccounted for, That's why she revised her utterance. The money was not verified in terms of the Auditor General's body of work that is to be done. And it's the same point I'm making with Mark Golding. Mark Golding asserts that he was born in Jamaica, but he's not able to evidence. He has elected not to evidence that by furnishing Jamaica with his birth certificate. And many are putting it to Mark Golding that he has not done so because he cannot do so. He has no Jamaican birth certificate. He was not born here. Many would contend.
Let's put it this way.
Yes, sir.
Let's take your argument that Mr. Golding can't verify Wemba. Let's take that argument.
Sure.
But
you have no idea how delighted I am that you have called in. The head boy running up and down the place and talking about me playing cricket at Maxwell Park. So what if I play cricket at Maxwell Park with ghetto youths in the ghetto? I love the ghetto people. I hear Lambert Brown talking about syrup. You know that is poor people drink syrup?
No, people are wanting you to remember. You said the attack approach of the GP. Let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
I am going to predict it, and I will stand by it. The People's National Party will win 41.
Very well, head boy. Very well.
And I want to tell which one is going to be that one in Western Central. You will leave your party without a party.
Very well. All right, so but head boy, so I've noted that, head boy.
If the Prime Minister is so satisfied that he has done so, the statistics is good.
We have some more runs to put on the board. So head boy, I'm going to ask you this as we run to the 11 o'clock. Head boy, I'm going to ask you this, my brother, as we run to the 11 o'clock. Zine? Is the Prime Minister certified in having reduced crime by 42% year to date so far? The answer is yes. Is the Prime Minister certified in having handed out concrete houses to poor Jamaicans? The answer is yes. Alright, head boy, watch me now. Is the Prime Minister certified in having instituted a rural school bus system in Jamaica? Something that PJ Patterson never did.
Why are you referring to what?
Is the Prime Minister certified?
That is already buggered down.
It's buggered down
by pressure because there's
no word that said buggered. You may want to say bogged down.
Well, Marlon, all I have to say to you is that the JUTC already has its financial issues. What we should have been doing.
My brother, I would literally pay you for this call. You have no idea. You have no idea.
We need to look at the health of JUTC. You know what is happening? I'm certain why the JLP wants to destroy the JUTC, because anything that them like to mash down. Yeah? And we have a mash down government and a mash down prime minister who, when the time comes, I show you that, Morgan. In the early 90 days in the Senate, you will be.
Head boy, don't be a stranger. I'll be on tomorrow. Call in tomorrow, and we can continue on some other things.
Tomorrow, you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about $31 million.
So, yeah, man, tomorrow we're calling and we'll talk about the drill. So, call in tomorrow, we'll talk about the $31 million drill, all right? All the best, my brother. All the best. Good, good. All right, we run to the NPR News and then come back with more here on Straight Up thereafter. Stay with us. Put the spotlight, listeners, on an issue that is deserving of public comment and public condemnation, particularly having regard to developments that have been topical in media of late. We know that Anissa Dilworth, her life has essentially been cut short, having regard to, taxi service that she sought to avail herself of. Her skeletal remains, it is believed, were found in the Fort Clarence area over in Portmore, St. Catherine. Young Kelsey Ferrigan is no longer with us on account of what is alleged to have been rape and strangulation at the hands of Giovanni Ellis, who was subsequently cut down by police. And of course, that gruesome beating that we saw on a particular nurse apparently employed to the University Hospital of the West Indies, and that beating was captured essentially on video. We're putting a spotlight on gender-based violence in this segment, but the Parliament, quite importantly, consequent on a statement from the Minister of Gender Affairs, Olivia Babsy-Grange, treated with this issue. And the Minister, as she did on Monday when she joined a group of protesters, registered her deep concern. And of course, we saw Angela Brown-Burke getting to her feet and seeking to politicize this issue. Yes, raising the issue of the JLP's George Wright. But this is how Kerencia Morrison of the JLP clapped back, and quite appropriately and fittingly so.
Mr. Speaker, we face here the culture of abuse, spousal abuse, battered women, battered men, from all walks of life. From all walks of life. Men who beat their wife, husbands beating their wives. And it is unfortunate that a former member of Parliament, right in here, it tells us that it touches every aspect of life. There are no barriers. And when we think about matters that are before the court, persons being charged for murder, former parliamentarian, it's really a humbling call that nobody here has the right to be pointing finger. No, it's not the time to make for political one-upmanship right across the aisle. These are issues that we have to deal with. A former parliamentarian, former MP, charged for murder.
May Melissa Silvera's soul continue to rest in peace, and light perpetual shine upon her. And we pray that her children, who will be in the care at present of other family members, that they be comforted and sustained, as they would have suffered a most gruesome and horrific experience some months ago, little over a year now. We're joined in this segment, listeners, by noted public affairs commentator and gender rights activist, Dr. Nadine Spence. Good morning, Nadine.
Good morning. Marlon. I'm not hearing you so well.
Well, I trust it is a bit better now.
Yes, it's better.
Very well.
Yes.
All right. So this issue of gender-based violence, certainly consequent on that video footage that we would have all seen, Nadine, is back, at the fore. Some would say, is this going to be another round of 9-day talk? Your initial reactions to all that is happening in the public discourse at present, particularly as it relates to that damning video that we saw last Thursday evening with that gentleman beating upon the nurse.
I mean, to be honest, if that hadn't been videoed, we would have heard about it and we would have gone along without batting an eyelid.
True.
The reason why we're this is being brought to our attention is because we saw the video. But these are things that happen all the time, because subsequently, Marlon, have been hearing other women who are now giving account of what they feel is encounter with the same gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, there is one reason why this is now grabbing the public's attention, and that is, of course, because we saw the video. But other things have happened too that we haven't seen the video of, but which people have been shocked at. We heard about the 9-year-old little girl who was raped and killed. But we also heard that that wasn't the first time that that young man had done that he had been as menacing, been as violent before.
Mm-hmm.
And that for some reason the court decided to give him bail, and that some members of his family and friends decided to take him into a community and put him around children. We've heard about the two girls, 9 and 10, walking home from school, who were both kidnapped and raped. And we also heard about the young lady from UTEC who was
Anissa Dilworth. Anissa Dilworth, yeah.
Anissa, who was abducted and killed, and we don't know if she was also sexually assaulted, although more than likely in situations like this we know that usually is the precursor to the violence,
killing, yeah.
That is the precursor to murder.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go back through the weeks, we are going to recognize that almost weekly there are acts of violence against women and girls, and I don't call them domestic violence. I'm very particular when I talk about violence against women and girls, because they are of a particular nature. They happen because women and girls are in relationships of trust with men who abuse that trust, and that is when you're in relationships of trust, even if it's with a taxi driver who you trust to take it from one place to another, a family friend who you trust, you're not putting up any defenses in this case, or you're driving on the road,
mm-hmm.
and you expect other drivers to behave in a same way, you have very little way to protect yourself as a woman. How do you protect yourself from, or as a girl, how do you protect yourself?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, it's not new. Our society is used to it. Marlon, we have a policy that is focused on the prevention of violence against women and girls.
Mm-hmm.
The gender from the Ministry of Gender, we have laws that are supposed to do that. And we have the police force, which is supposed to have a focus on domestic violence, and within that, violence against women and girls. But we have a society where violence against women and girls is accepted. And whenever we start to have the conversation, Marlon, we start here. But men face violence too. And,
like a kind of equivocation?
Huh?
A kind of equivocation to say, well,
yes.
But men are also, the victims of, which is true,
right.
Technically, yes.
It is true, but
mm-hmm.
we're talking about two different kinds of violence,
mm-hmm.
right? But and even if we're going to find a solution, we have to see them as different and treat them as different, because the root causes are different, right?
Yeah.
So we can't use one to cancel out the other and say, oh, well, more men die in Jamaica than women, so why are women complaining? Which I've heard, and one of the reasons why I've stopped engaging the matter in public is because that sentiment gets...
It's too upsetting for you, personally, yeah.
Yeah, I can't engage it anymore because it's so much... It feels itself to hear that and to participating in conversations like that is itself violent.
It's almost like re-traumatizing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But Marlon, yesterday I was having some conversation with the women. I work with women at Mary P. Cole Hall at UAE,
mm-hmm.
and I have a particular group of women that I work with called the Amzalama Girls, women for the Amzalama Girl Foundation. And I was saying to them, I need you women to talk about this. I don't want to be out there talking about it. I want you to talk about it as a group of young women. And in bringing them up to speed is what has happened. I talked to them about the committee that was reviewing the Sexual Offences Act, the Domestic Violence Act, the Child Care and Protection Act, and the Offences Against the Person. Did I say that? At the time when it was started, Marlon, Kamina Johnson-Smith was in opposition,
mm-hmm.
and Floyd Green, and they were on the committee reviewing those pieces of legislation. I remember because I made representation at that committee, and that in 2019 the report of that committee was accepted by both houses. And we were promised then through the Minister of Gender Affairs that the work would be necessary now, would begin now to craft the laws that would change some of the laws that we have in Jamaica that makes it. One of the things we heard about the man who subsequently killed the 9-year-old girl is that he had raped a 12-year-old girl before and hit her in the head. And then
some family member of his. And then he had the stepdaughter now who he was before the courts on that matter, which is what he was out on bail on because he had served a period of incarceration. He did his time on that 12-year-old related matter. Then for this stepdaughter of his now, a child who was 2 at the time, he was out on bail in relation to that matter when he reoffended.
So you see, this is a man who's a serial abuser of children, you know.
Yep.
But still our laws didn't. And there was another case the other day where somebody went in front of the court and argued to be given less time because he had molested a girl who was about 7. And then he and his lawyer's argument was that she had a sexually transmitted disease, but he was not the one who gave it to her, so he needed to be given special consideration for that. A lot of these things happen in our courts, you know, we don't pay attention. And that the adjustment to that piece of to those pieces of legislation would have what we see as offenders getting a slap on the wrist as it relates to those matters of violence against women and children, and especially vulnerable, who we deem as vulnerable, which is the older people with disabilities and children. We have heard nothing about those pieces of legislation. Nothing. They were accepted in 2019. It's now 2025, Marlon. You're in the Senate now.
Yeah.
We haven't heard anything back from those reviews. That was the deliberations that made marital rape unlawful, that spoke about aggravation in those matters that I just spoke to. That spoke, you know, so we have a lot.
I have to reconsult that statement because I know the Minister of Gender Affairs, Minister Grange, that is, gave a statement to the House last afternoon. I'd have to reconsult that. I'd commend it to you as well to determine the degree to which there was any update as to where government is at present with those consequential amendments to legislation that would better protect the nation.
And Marlon, you know that I am somebody who would have the ears of Minister Grange and who...
Absolutely, yes.
And you know that, so I'm having this conversation out of...
No, ma, you're well intentioned, and that's the spirit within which I receive it.
Exactly, because I think that 6 years is a long wait for legislation after the public has been consulted and after we have gone through that process of haggling over what is necessary for the protection of the vulnerable.
Well, what I'm happy about, though, Nadine, is from an infrastructure standpoint, these women's shelters that have since come on stream in terms of these kinds of almost timeout and supportive kind of, accommodation where a woman who has been the victim of abuse and, assault, as it were, is able to retreat from that toxic and abusive household and situation to these safe spaces. That. Yeah.
But I want to say to you that whereas in Jamaica we have 2, Trinidad has about 6 or 8. And I want to say as well that, I'm in a group with women, the Jamaica Women's Movement. I'm in a group with those women. And as you talk, I need to reach out to the Bureau, because a lot of women don't know how to refer people to those shelters because we don't know what the processes and procedures are. So that if I know of a woman who's in trouble, I have access to people. So I can call and say, Head of Gender Affairs, what do I do? Which I have done in the past. But in that group, 2 Sundays ago, there was a woman there who was saying, I have a woman who needs help. How do I access a shelter? So Marlon, in other words, what I'm saying is we've done some, but we need to be much more emphatic about this matter. When I finished my first degree, I remember reading, my first degree is in politics. And when I started to venture in this thing about women's rights, I remember reading a statement, that was a long ago, which came from the UN, which says, while Jamaica is much more advanced than most countries in terms of how it has advanced legislation and policy for the protection of women's rights and women's well-being and children and the vulnerable, it hasn't done enough to change the culture. So on the material aspects, the legislation, the policy, the institutions, we're kind of doing well. You know, we tend to be responsive, but when it comes on to engaging in
socialization
the
and behavioral,
yes, we haven't begun that process, and that's why I said to you, nowadays I am very skeptical about engaging in public conversations about this matter, because usually even journalists and those who interview thought leaders on the radio and so on push back as if we are having a philosophical conversation from the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. You know that something there? We have to bring in a balanced perspective. No, don't bring a balanced perspective for me. How do you balance a 9-year-old being raped and stuffed in a barrel? What is the balanced perspective to that? How do you balance what happened to the nurse on the road? What would a male perspective? How would a male perspective differ from my perspective, and why would it differ from my perspective?
Well, on that score, though, Nadine. No, complete the thought, complete the point, and then I come to the question. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, when it comes down to violence, and when we know the extent and the impact of it, the only perspective is people's well-being, people's health, and the need to create spaces or create a society
conditions
where
that
everybody
foster
feels
and
safe.
promote that.
Yes.
All right, but to the extent that there's been this public, outcry, uproar, having regard to that video that came out last Thursday, is that not suggestive of a collective consciousness as Jamaicans in this society of ours that, listen, this is something we shun, we seek to eschew this kind of behavior in our society?
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when, I keep forgetting her name and I shouldn't do that, the young lady Dean went missing.
Oh, Jasmine Dean. So this is Jasmine Dean.
And that we went
St.
out on the
Thomas.
Streets and all of the things.
Yeah, there was heavy mobilization.
I think we have the appropriate response. So you're right, there is a way in which when something is shocking enough, we respond. But I don't want it to be the shocking things that we respond to. You know what I mean? I think we have to talk about how we parent children so we protect them, you know? So Marlon, my granddaughter, my first granddaughter, I have 2 grandchildren. One of them is 9 years old. And, the impact of that, of the violence against that little girl who was killed and the other 2 walking from school, it's chilling. Yeah, you want, these things have a kind of impact on the society, so that the 40% reduction in crime that we are hearing about, it immediately, one act immediately cancels the impact of that. Because when you saw that woman being hurt, that man stepping on that woman's head with such brutality, in front of people, with such brutality, with such a lack of regard for anything, immediately you start to say to yourself, that could be me. I start thinking about this several times. I am on the road and people bad drive me and I reach out and say, why I do that for, whatever. And I have now decided I would never say that again.
God, yeah,
it has a chilling impact on all of society.
I mean, I was listening to a program yesterday, Nadine, as we wrap up the segment, where the president of UTEC was speaking elsewhere in Radioland, and he made the point that he couldn't watch the video in its entirety because he when he saw the man flip over the nurse, that was just next level horrific. That could have easily broken, her vertebrae and compromised her, physiological condition going forward. She could have easily been paralyzed from the waist down or from the neck down.
And when you think that he knew she was a nurse because he would have seen her uniform.
She done in the white house, so, yeah.
A nurse is somebody who cares for you in a hospital. No matter, a lot of people, when they realize that you're a nurse or a doctor or somebody who is in the caring profession, immediately people come to terms with that and say, you never know when I will need the services of this person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Robert Bell is not an iron. He may be one of those persons who find himself at the University Hospital of the West Indies, albeit Tony Thwaites wing perhaps.
Exactly. Yeah, but the level of cruelty displayed in that, and even I think I don't remember which parish we have with the gentleman who took 2 girls, 9 and 10 years old, and raped them.
Mm-hmm.
What
You're
was
somewhere
that?
in South Central Jamaica. It may have been St. Elizabeth or Manchester. I'm not so sure. I think it may have been St.
Yeah, I
Louis.
don't remember where. When I couldn't finish reading that story, I was like, how? I mean, what? How
It's unheard
depraved?
of, yeah.
How depraved can you be that you see 2 girls walking home? But we've seen other moments like that. Remember, there was one in, I think, Hanover, where a stepfather took his stepdaughter, raped her, killed her, and then helped to
There
look
were
for
something
her.
in Stirling Castle some years ago. These incidents have come up every so often, which is why there are these renewed calls for, sex offenders registry. And I've heard the Prime Minister in this regard, and we trust that there'll be some, effective movement to better empower the citizenry, the
Public
communities.
sex offenders registry. Remember, we have one now that is.
Yeah, but we know that the registry is a
public.
matter of how persons can more readily access it and whether we get it to be public. So we're looking forward to some developments in that regard. But I have to thank you for your time with us this morning, Dr. Spence.
Thanks for inviting me.
Good. Do have a good rest of the day, my friend. All the best.
All right, bye-bye.
We're going to go to the break and come back with your cause as we go up to the end of the program at midday, listeners. Remember the numbers 212-9824, and there's also 462-0919. Stay with us.
Senator Morgan, morning.
Yes, sir. Morning, sir.
You can't expect any better thing from DAS. DAS have a leader, a British citizen, a leading, but doesn't speak the truth either. They don't expect anything better from DAS. And DAS, them waste all of them time for 4 years a quarrel about Andrew decoration. And time catch up on them now when they look straight in the 3rd term and don't know where to turn. Straight into the 3rd term and then don't know where to turn. So DAS, I think you can find something to stick.
So your reference to Mark Golding a while ago is not speaking the truth. Are you referring, for example, to the instance in which the journalist at a press conference asked Mark Golding about FinSac, and he made the point that he had never done
asked him about FinSac, and he said he don't have nothing to do with it.
When in fact there is information to the contrary.
Thank you. And after fixing it, tackle him in the Senate.
Yeah.
And it's just the same thing. Bunting went and mislead Jamaica in the Senate about a contractor concerning one school. And the contractor went on a public radio and said it is not true. The ministry owe him no money. And then I heard yesterday, Peter Phillips' son, must be Sunday evening, I talk about the bus system where going to help the pauperized people and people who live in the bush areas them to see that they can go to school. That is a foolishness. Those parents doesn't have no brother. We're involved in a $90 million and judge pat them on the shoulder and almost let them go scot-free. But then couldn't call up and to give them something. So what the government is doing
here to the arrested and charged and before the courts, Mr. Robert Chin, the half-brother, as it were, of the incumbent MP for North West Manchester, Mr. Michael Phillips. Yeah.
Michael Phillips. $90 million worth of cocaine. And he went before a judge and must pay $500,000. That was a spot, that was a play upon his shoulder.
You know that there's something that we need to we're gonna have to start focusing attention on in this country, because the judiciary in this country has often been treated as though they are sacred cows.
Exactly.
The public would have reacted with disgust recently at the thought of this man who had certain antecedents, Giovanni Ellis that is, being out on bail. And you get the clear sense that, listen, some questionable decisions are happening amongst members of the judiciary. And we don't trespass on the separation of powers in our democratic system of governance. But I dare say, just like the Integrity Commission, the men and women who are magistrates or judges in this country are not sacred cows. There needs to start being a degree of discussion and closer examination of some of these determinations and decisions emerging from the judiciary in this country.
What happened Friday also? What happened Friday? The question I want to ask the Senator.
Yes, sir.
So the ruling we went on Friday. The judge, they must be the 140 people if they did a day before it come a state of emergency or something to be done.
Well, I'm delighted that
people to the dead.
I'm delighted that the appeal will ensue. Just to point out to you, Carl, and to the listeners generally. Zine, one of the judges on that panel, she was also a judge on the panel in relation to that initial matter concerning the DPP. So she was among those who ruled Sepala Llewellyn to go home. But that ruling, as we now note and recall, was overturned on appeal. Yes? So Mrs. what's your name? Simone Wolf-Rees?
Wolf-Rees. Anyhow, Senator, I'll talk to you about another time.
All right, all the best, Sir Carl. All the best. Good. We are moving further along. Taking another call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Yes, Mr. Marlon Morgan. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Milton Francis.
Yes, sir. First thing first, Junior Biles, the late Junior Biles. Started out nice with his career, but he eventually faded away in the midstream. Mentally, unfortunate, eh?
But he was spot on. And that's a song I used on the platform some time ago, Milton, when I had said, Mark Golding cares for only vanity, he has no love for...
You want to turn it over the Malcolm for me, sir?
See if you can help me, Madam Producer. This is not the first that it comes.
No, you have to come a little low for me. I don't hear you more and so.
Ensure that the volume of the device is...
No, I turn up my own right up.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, go ahead. So we
you were saying something, you know. You were saying something about Feed Away.
Yeah, man. I was just recounting that big hit song by Junior Biles and making the point, Milton, that I had occasion to use that on the political stump some weeks ago when I said, among other things, that Mark Golding seeks for only vanity he has no love for, but I didn't use the word. I allowed the crowd to use the word because I'm fairly clever. You understand? And I went on to make the point that he shall fade away.
But right now, technically and politically, Mark Golding is in our best stead than Mr. Holness, who is the Prime Minister.
Let me tell you
whether the people are conscious, whether the mass of the people are conscious of it, yes or no.
Let me tell you this, Milton.
Am I right about that?
Nationwide, consequent on having commissioned Blue Dot, they went out in the field. Nationwide will be releasing poll findings come Monday, 26th May. So we will get to gauge, as it were, the comment you proffered just now regarding Mark being in a whatever position.
Yes, sir. Always I say, Mr. Big Man, remember me tell you, say no. Mark Golding is in a better stead, technically and politically, than the most honorable Prime Minister as we speak. Whether the mass of the people are aware or conscious of it, yes or no. So what's wrong with anyway?
You notice that,
and the next
no,
thing,
man, you like to try and drop some little weak dibby bombs and then run. Don't do that, man. Don't do that. The little chiboom them where you throw, don't throw the little chiboom and then run. Zane, let us interrogate the little chiboom where you throw. Mark Golding has been opposition leader for 4.5 years. Yes? Do you note, Milton, that over that period of time and in the last budget debate before the elections are held, Mark Golding couldn't come with a budget debate. What he came with was essentially what he called an outline for the first term. He couldn't come with a budget debate. You realize that? do you also realize that the things that Mark Golding has come with are things where I keep already? So in other words, Milton, you tap our woman foot and you are look the woman, but the woman haven't fear of our man. And the things where you're talking to the woman ears, our man done do them there already. You don't realize so you're redundant.
Your Prime Minister seems redundant because I don't know why he's holding on.
About Prime Minister,
I think the leadership of the party should tell him up front and close. Say, boy, you are no longer marketable.
All right, watch me now.
You don't think you ask a question to allow me to answer, no big man?
Sure, go ahead. Complete the thought.
Yes, sir. And you see again, Mr. Morgan, the Prime Minister knows that time coming.
Okay.
But he might try to see what he can do.
Time come for a rural school bus system.
So see if he can hoodwink the people, because people are vulnerable,
Time come for a rural school bus system, or time come for another 100 JUTC buses? Or is it that time come for a 45% reduction in murders?
Right,
because we're now at a 42% reduction in murders. Are you saying to the public that time come for a 45% reduction in murders?
Interesting,
Are you saying that time comes to establish Portmore as a 15th parish of Jamaica?
You're interested in somebody met in an accident sometime in March, second half March, and they died. The person died last Thursday. So somebody was saying, I wonder if the road people, the traffic authority, put those people after 2 months he has been in the hospital. And similar thing with the murder rate. We have been told that
I'm saying it would be good to hear from the authorities as to how, because the incident happened in March, the person died. So which month would they attribute the death to?
That's what they got last Wednesday. So I want to know if that is on the road statistics as a fatality. Similar thing with the murder. A lot of people got shot, and died 2 and 3 and 4 months after the result of the gunshot. The police put those things on the murder rate.
All right, excellent.
When we talk about, when we have big up our politics, we must remember that we have a country. A country to run.
So allow me to say this now, Milton, right? When Peter Bunting was National Security Minister, did we have instances in which a person would have been shot at a particular point in time, go to hospital, yes, and then subsequently die as a result of that gunshot wound sustained prior? Would we have had similar instances?
Big man, we are talking about governance structure now, right?
So I have a governance structure then.
That should be
so the question I put to you a while ago, so Milton, the question I put to you a while ago doesn't touch and concern governance structure?
So you are talking about Mr. Bunting. Big man, too much politics at Jamaica off guard here.
Too much what?
Let's go back to the...
Too much what? As you mentioned that, by the way, hold on a moment, Milton. Madam Producer, cue up that 3-minute Peter Bunting for me, please. Go ahead, Milton. Complete the point.
Yes, we were talking, just coming up to the 11 o'clock break here, and gentlemen, we were talking about statutory declaration.
Yeah,
so far,
the head boy, who I'm happy he called in.
Concern.
Yeah.
So question now,
what
sir.
About it?
The Prime Minister took it upon himself and took up one of the entity to court. The question, sir, in its capacity as Prime Minister, the taxpayer to pay for those legal fees, sir?
Him do it in his capacity. No, man, this isn't his private capacity. Because as you know, him retain. Well, Anna Milton, man, you ask the question, allow the public to hear wholesome and sensible information, no? Because that doesn't happen here otherwise. Allow the public to hear the sensible something, man. The lawyer that the Prime Minister retained was on his own account, and him have to pay that. It's not the Attorney General who will be representing the Prime Minister. The matter of the Prime Minister's statutory deductions are his matter.
I question, Mr. Morgan. Now you give me an answer, right?
Private counsel, sir.
Okay, I will check it out. We're going to check the Accountant General, say what they say is true, Right?
I said Attorney General, so you can check the Attorney General chambers.
The Accountant General, better somebody to check. Anyway, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, sir.
Is there any chance that the Prime Minister statutory declaration for this year will be certified?
Is there any chance for what?
Is there any likelihood that it will be certified the one for this year?
Who that?
The most honorable Prime Minister's statutory dedication.
No, put that question. Watch me now, Milton. Put that question to the constituted authority vis-a-vis the certification of statutory declarations.
That you mean
via
like the Integrity Commission?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, but you told us that the elect must be desired. Have you forgotten?
Yeah, man, I stand by that. You think I withdraw or I vary my positions?
You know, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of things our founding fathers, they never mention no mothers in it. Never a vision, you know. So going forward.
Let me ask you this, Milton. The park for the people in Mandeville.
Yes, you know, I don't allow you to speak. You see it?
No, man. I allow people to speak, man. No, you that talk a while ago, and it's my time now for something.
But I'm not finish the sentence.
Yeah, complete the point so that I can come back to my point. Go ahead.
All I'm saying, sir. There's a lot of things our founding fathers, and that, you know, in other time they exclude the mothers. Never a vision, you know. Right? So now that we are seeing the light. Look better than they.
You're right. Our founding fathers, Milton, would not have envisaged, yes, 40,000 businesses being closed down. They would never have envisaged a prime minister pegging his pension to the current income of the serving prime minister. They would not have envisaged, yes, debt going up the way it went up, or the greatest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich.
Andrew can refuse it if you want, you know.
That's a Andrew businessman. You and him can discuss that.
Because, you know, Andrew saying the increase, and in the body that...
Mark Golding's emoluments is over 25 million per annum.
No, sir, we're not against that. He should have, when they were in the cabinet submission, he should have informed the finance minister to say it in parliament. So that's what I go down in Hansard.
But that came out publicly,
so
sir.
That's when the Prime Minister say, you know what, we are trying to reach the accountant general long time.
That's a matter of public record. It's a matter of public record, sir. It's a matter of public record. In fact, you can check with a gentleman who is professing to be an avid access to information researcher now. Yes? Or submitter. Wilfred Rattigan can do an access for information requisition in relation to the Prime Minister's emoluments.
I have to people have proof of Mark Golding giving up some of his money to charities, you know. We don't have proof of Andrew Holness up so far.
Andrew Holness, sir. And that's why I gave you the suggestion a while ago.
People, you know.
You and others can use an access to information request to establish what is the Prime Minister's earnings. It is $9 million, sir. $9 million plus per annum.
Mr. Morgan. The people with no say.
Well,
some change in the governance structure.
All right, watch me now, Milton. Watch me now. All right, let's go. Watch me now, Milton. The Morant Bay Urban Center. Do you think it is good for the PNP to be on social media chastising and castigating the Morant Bay Center where they didn't do anything following the closure of the Goodyear factory?
I know what going.
Them say I just KFC out there and Labour writer make a song and dance about KFC because them love them belly. I can go out there go buy 1 million KFC, you see? Watch me. They also made the point that it's not quite done yet, but yet still them have groundbreaking, ribbon cutting, and all kinds of other points that they make because the Morant Bay Urban Center beat them bad.
So the Prime Minister wants to show people say he do good work minus integrity. We want integrity at the highest level, you know, because some people say there that the stream muddy, the bottom more muddy.
So because Kevin Stevenson, pursuant to female chicken business, did not certify the Prime Minister, you believe that the Prime Minister doesn't have integrity? That makes sense to you?
No. So you are implying that the Integrity Commission is not a coordinated entity, you know. When I'm implying is this. One person,
Milton,
you know that?
Milton, what I'm implying is this. Kevin Stevens need to come and tell the public the circumstances under which Mrs. Tamika Fiddler Blake left the Integrity Commission, why the woman resigned. And Greg Christie and the same Kevin Stevenson need to come and tell us why Mrs. Keisha Prince Kamika was told, as is alleged, that she should not apply for the post yes, of Director of Corruption
may I
Prosecution
ask a
when her
simple
contract
question?
came to an end.
They
need to tell us those things.
Is the Integrity Commission
You think Integrity Commission can win you an election? You're going to stay up at East Rural and weep and moan and bawl and have gnashing of teeth. If you are trying to place your store
I don't
in the
have
Integrity
any teeth in my
Commission.
mouth, you know, so I don't show the teeth gone off.
Well, that is between you and your dentist, but what I'll say
Anyway,
to you,
all I'm saying, sir,
Milton, I'm running now.
let's
I'm
not
running
blame
now
take
because
one
I'm going to
somebody
play
out
this
of a
Peter
group
Bunting
and blame
clip,
that person.
Anyway, all right, Milton, I'm running now, but I'll tell you this.
Identity.
Before I run, Milton, the government has a second chance program where it is providing at no cost to people like yourself dentures so that you can have your smile
Anyway,
restored
all I'm saying, sir,
if you have no
integrity at the
teeth.
highest level, sir, because if they
We're not talking about integrity, we're talking about dentistry now. We are talking about dental work now. We are talking about dental work. You are a PNP supporter, but the government has instituted a program so that you can get dentures at no cost to you. If it is, as you have said, that you have no teeth. Go and sign up for the second smiles. John Paul got a leg from the government. You may get some teeth from the government. Go and focus on that. All the best, Milton. We're gonna have listeners hearing an item of news from some years ago, 2013 I think it was. Listen to the gentleman who have a lot of chat when he's on the political platform. Yes? Listen to Peter Bunting.
A nation which seems to be constantly under threat by marauding gunmen and which has rampant and brazen criminality in several communities looks to this man to help craft effective policies to slay the crime beast. Now, however, National Security Minister Peter Bunting, in an emotional display, believes the lasting solution to deal with Jamaica's crime problem has to come from above. Clearly holding back tears, Mr. Bunting said this is a dark time in his career as minister.
I think after 15 months, I am convinced that the best efforts of the security forces by itself will not solve the crime problem in Jamaica. But it is going to take divine intervention, touching the hearts of a wide cross-section of the society.
Mr. Bunting suggested help from the heavens is needed by way of the Almighty, touching the hearts of pastors, business persons, and politicians who would then take appropriate action.
And using as the instruments of the divine intervention the ministers' fraternals, the academics, the business community, those persons who work in the NGO community, those of us who are in political service, all to try and make an impact.
Until then, however, the minister told the gathering that based on the numbers, it could be perceived that the crime beast is winning. His voice broke during the declaration. He tried hard to control his emotions.
I'm not embarrassed to say that right now, as Minister of National Security, I'm going through a kind of a dark night of the soul, because we're trying very hard at the ministry. I see the men and women of the security forces trying very hard, working night and day, long hours. I see the leadership, capable, competent, professional, both of the police and the military. And so much effort is being made, and yet so little headway, such slow headway is coming out in the statistics.
At one point, there was a pause by the minister. He needed a moment.
And
so what's keeping him going in light of the grim reality? The minister said he's clinging to faith.
And it really takes a lot of faith to keep working and going in the face of this. And of course, I'm happy that I have so many persons of faith to encourage and support not just myself, but all of the security forces at this time.
So a call for help from a higher power to help save the nation. Many hope the prayer will be answered.
Let us here at New Start 93 FM credit that media house. I know the journalist was Andrew Cannon, or is Andrew Cannon. I'm not so sure whether it was at CVM at the time or whether it was a TVJ broadcast. But that was instructive, isn't it, listeners? After 15 months, he came to office in January 2012. Yes? And after 15 months, they're on the podium a ball. That's why I refer to him as Bali Bali, by way of sort of Osha comments in the Senate. Anyway, we have essentially come to the end of the broadcast. Let me thank our broadcast technician and producer, Ms. Tanner Richards, and our guests this morning, and all of you, our listeners and callers, for having made it the program. Yet again, to advertise with us, please call our sales agents at 427-9955. That's 427-9955. And Marlon Morgan, join me tomorrow morning at 9:05 when I will do it all over again and play more from Peter Bunting as he imploded and abdicated as National Security Minister, literally bawling on the podium.